starting though. Vamos a empezar para los que van a ver más tarde. We're going to start this for people who are going to watch later on. Muy buenos días, muy buenos días. Espero que ustedes estén bien. I hope you are all well. And we're going to do a lot of practice today. I am going to tell you ahead of time that our main topics are going to be reflexives, and we're going to start into some, and I'm going to introduce a special reflexive verb today that you haven't seen before, just one. A verb that you may say, well, why is this even reflexive? But it is. I am going to put on share screen the page that you need to have handy soon. So if you printed it out, no es eso, it's not that one that you see there. Es esto, it's this one. And it said, I had a big in bottom thing there. So you want to have this. You know, if you like to split your screen into two screens and you just pull it up on the computer because you're like, I don't want to print it, that's fine. If you have it printed and it's somewhere at hand, but maybe not like right there, easy to grab, take a few minutes to go find that. But these are our little questions that we're going to send you off into small groups to work on later on. And these kinds of reflexives are verbs that may not in and of themselves look like, well, it's not like me pongo los zapatos, I'm putting shoes on my body. They're not necessarily that kind of reflexive where you think of it as you're doing this to yourself, but they are nonetheless reflexive, okay? And we'll come back to those in just a little bit before you go off into small groups. Actually, I recently watched a video by a Mexican couple where they talked about reflexives, and it was sort of interesting. It was something I had not thought of from that point of view before. I've always, learned these reflexive verbs and thought, well, they're just reflexive. That's just the way they are. You just have to know them. But this couple sort of stated it as even these verbs where you don't necessarily think of it as doing the action and receiving the action. In essence, you really are. It kind of reflects something about the culture of some of these activities have to do with kind of mental states where, this emotion comes up within you and it affects you as well. So it's kind of almost a cultural reference point that some of these are reflexive. Something to ponder for later on. Okay, a ver, primero. First, I want to ask if you've got any questions from your reading in the novelitas from this week. Are there any questions you have from what you read where it's like, ooh, I took a note on this and I don't know what they meant, whether it's vocab or the way they structured a sentence. And it's sort of interesting, we've had fewer of those as we go on because it's becoming more obvious. Are you guys done with the novela yet?
Sí.
Finished? Okay. So I probably don't need to ask next week. Okay.
It's harder to understand.
It's harder to understand?
I mean, a little bit, like compared to the first two that we did before, and this one is harder.
Okay.
For me.
And that's an okay observation. It's always okay. Is it harder because they are stringing together more information in the sentence?
Yes, and then more vocabularies that is it's not, we don't know that the word yet, so I kept going back to the meaning of that, so the dictionary on the back, so I just keep looking back, what's the meaning of this, so
Okay, so what are some words that are typically giving you trouble? Can you pick one or two out?
I mean, it's like a new, what is that, like cayeron, for example, You know,
Okay.
I have no idea what is that. And then so I was like, okay, what is it? And then it's not just that. It's because of the other, it changed the other, like, you know, probably from one tense to another.
Okay.
So, you know, Kairon, and then
So
before that,
changing from present to past,
yeah.
and that
So
is a very normal thing to find to
so
be
and then I
difficult.
was like, is it the same meaning with the other word that it sounded kind of like that? So, but I'm not sure. So I just keep looking back on that, you know.
So let me type something in the, it's very interesting that you bring this up, Juanita. Is a lot of it that you look at a verb that, oh, it looks kind of like this, but the conjugation is like, why is it doing that?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
So things like that, and you know.
And that's why we're starting in with
So
some
I don't know
of,
if it's just me who kind of like having a hard time, like, you know, understanding and moving from one page to another. It takes longer for me this time.
okay, yes.
You know, compared to the other one, because, you know, I think this one is more more words and then more sentences that the structure, you know, so that I gotta to understand even more, and it's a little harder for me to understand, but I keep going and I try and, you know, do whatever I
Okay.
can do.
So I've got to share screen up here because this is actually a super good question that you've got. You know, caer. Wow, and that's kind of a weird looking verb anyway, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
for only 4 letters. But okay, so to fall, and often that is caerse, to fall down. Often it is that, quite often. And it can even mean that you've dropped something if you turn it into yet another kind of form. But when you approach it, especially with these books, I'm going to go out a little bit on a limb here. If it doesn't look like a chart ending that you've been studying all along, if it doesn't look like these, you know, endings that look like present tense, you know, if you get these endings and you say, wow, what is that? You know, these are pretty familiar. You know to look out for these. You know to look out for those kind of endings. And when you see those kind of endings on the end of a word, you say, oh, you know that's an action, right? It's an action. So, you know, maybe you have to look up caer, but then you get from right away, oh, you know, dying, oh, they're falling. Okay, you get that. But a lot of times you know, may not see it listed as a verb like this. You may see it, you may read it as still across the top line, I'm going here, as this. And you think, whoa, and you think, wait a minute, why? Where did that come from? Where did that why come from? What the heck is that? And suddenly your brain is like going into free fall. Well, this does come from caer. Well, you got to look at what I take off the er, right? That's all I got left is that ka. Wow, that's not much to hang on to. But then you say, wait a minute, what's the why thing? What's the why thing? Well, I'm going to go out way on a limb here and say, when you see it endings on things, you think, well, must be a verb, but it doesn't fall into this category right now because of the level of the book you're in. You're probably looking at past. You're probably looking at past. So instead of fall, fell. Okay. And you'll kind of see, because we're going to do at least half of our class today on introducing these past tenses a little bit. You're going to see why that happens. And you're going to look and say, oh, eventually, okay, that's a thing that gets tagged on to say it happened and it's over with. Okay. And of course, we have more tenses than present and past. We have future, we have all of those. But in the books you are in right now, if it is not in something that looks like one of these, more likely it's going to be some kind of a past tense verb. Okay, because that's the way these books are set up, to go about happening now or it's over with, right? One of those kinds of things. And also always look at the big main part of the verb. When you come across a verb and you think this conjugation looks all bizarre, like you come across this word, let's say trabajaron, and you go, I don't know what this thing is. I don't know what that thing is. What does that mean? It's not trabajan. Wait a minute, it's got an N at the end. Oh, you know what? If it's got an N on the end of it, it means it's a they verb. That's sacred. That's kind of sacred. An N at the end of a verb means they're doing it, or ustedes, right? It's that third person plural. But wait a minute, but it's not these. Well, that still means they are doing it. You're just looking at what time. This is a past. But what you do know is this big stem, that big main part of the verb. Okay, so it's something about work, but it doesn't mean working right now. It means in the past. Okay, so always look for the big stem. That will not always help you, sadly. I wish I could say that it always helped, but it will often help. And you might come across not trabajaron, but trabajaban. Wait a minute. It's still about working. It's still about working, but this is again a different kind of a past tense. These are two different kinds of past tenses. We're going to start to look at those today. But we're just going to dip our toes into it so that when you're reading, you can kind of start to recognize it. Okay. We have, in English, we have fewer distinctions about past tense forms than they do in Spanish. So while right now it may seem like, boy, this is uncomfortable. In fact, once you get used to it, especially when you read a little noveleta like this, it tells you really specific things about the actions from them changing one verb from one past tense to a different past tense. It's either describing, ooh, here's what was all going on in the background action, or it tells you, oh, an event, and boom, something happened, boom, something happened. Okay, that's what the two past tenses do. So part of that discomfort that you're probably feeling now is to be expected.
Okay.
Is normal. And is normal. But now you'll notice when you look up the verb, they probably have the verb in the back of the book, not as caer, but cayeron. They probably put it in there. Yeah. So they, in these little books, the nice thing about it is when you flip back real quickly and you look that up, they've got it in the exact form you need it. And then you flip back to where you started, right? Mm-hmm. So it's designed to get you back in quickly so you don't muck about a lot of tables, and you can get back and pick up your train of thought as fast as possible. Okay. I don't know how much that helps, but what you're feeling is not unusual, and it is a normal thing because you're reading things that it's going from this happens now, but this happened in the past. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Marilyn,
Okay. See,
Marilyn, will we be having a new book in the fall?
I think we will. I'm gonna kind of look at which one might make sense. Unless people like don't want one.
I really like having a book. I don't know how other people feel, but I really like that.
Okay. I mean, the stories tend to be a little more juvenile. I mean, yeah, because they're written for a teenage audience as a general rule. You know, teenagers, problems with girls, problems with boys, problems with cars, problems with my parents or pain in the butt, that kind of thing.
Yes,
But
exactly.
yeah.
This is my states right now.
Yeah, there are some adult books. I've kind of looked at some of them. Some of them are a little bit more expensive. Some are a little more extensive. And the nice thing about these is that they're very, very short. They're very, very short. You know, the alternative, if we don't do a book, is I can very easily find little newspaper articles that could do similar things, but they wouldn't be a whole book. It would be, you'd get a new article every week. So we can kind of do a vote on that when we get up to, you know, which they'll be a little more adult themed if I pick an article. Yeah, I mean, they're not going to be about teenagers, cars, boyfriends, girlfriends, and my parents don't buy me new clothes. I hate them. Yeah. It won't be that kind of thing, because it'll be stuff that, yeah, you may not love every single article, but you know, there'll be more adult oriented topics. If you so choose to do that, that is fine. You know, my feelings have nothing to do with it. Okay. A ver. Bueno,
I also have another
Sí, sí.
a question here about the I'm still kind of like, I try to understand it, but it's and trying to do the exercise in the book, and you know, obviously I still get some mistakes out of it. That means that I don't completely understand, like between the reflexive and the non-reflexive.
Okay.
So how to you know, to see it, like define, oh, this one you can see it like directly, that you can look at it and read it and then, oh, figure it out. This one is reflexive and this is not. So how is, like, you know, to figure it out?
How does the meaning change?
I'm sorry?
How does the meaning change? Is that?
It's I mean, like, to me, is the problem is like, it's hard to understand. It's not to understand, but it's to figure it out which one is the reflexive and which one is the non-reflexive one, because, you know, I mean, I got it mostly right, but I got some still wrong. So it's like, so how to figure it out in a,
How,
so
how to tell the difference between reflexive and non-reflexive, right?
Yeah, so I mean, like,
Okay.
to find the best way and the fast way to figure it out, like which one is the reflexive and which one is not.
Okay. You will need to choose, yeah, okay. So we're going to wait, after we handle this question, we're going to go into our prompts, conversation groups, pero, let's take a look at another screen here. Let's look at some differences between reflexives and not. Sometimes it is very easy to tell.
Yeah.
Llamar and llamarse are pretty, ooh, 3 L's we don't need. And llamarse are pretty easy, right? Como por ejemplo, llamo a mi hermana en Michigan cada jueves, every Thursday. Cada jueves llamo a mi hermana en Michigan. Mi hermana se llama María. Se llama María. We need to use reflexive just to convey that idea of her name is. Her name is. a lot of these reflexives will talk about our routines. So, okay, por ejemplo, poner, let's take a look at another verb, poner. Poner by itself is just put. Ponerse means you put something on your body. It might be jewelry, it might be clothing, okay? So, pongo, por ejemplo, pongo mi taza de café aquí. I'm putting it here. I'm not I don't wear this. I don't wear this, so I can't use ponerse with just saying I'm moving it from one place to another. Pongo mi taza a la derecha. I'm putting my cup on the right. It's not going on my body. Pero me pongo una nueva camiseta. I'm putting on a new t-shirt. See, me pongo. Me pongo los audífonos. I'm putting on my headset because I am literally wearing it, putting it on my body, right? Me pongo los lentes para leer, para ver mejor. So some of these, I'm putting it on. Let's look at despertar. Despertar means to wake somebody. Like your kids won't get out of bed. You go in there and you wake them up, right?
Mhm.
Not reflexive because you're not doing it yourself. So, okay. Despierto a mis hijos todas las mañanas. I wake up my kids every morning because they don't do it themselves. Lazy little things. Okay, but despertarse. And this kind of goes back into Los Mexicanos, what the Mexicans had to say about reflexives. Is something you and your body within itself is going through this process of doing this to yourself. So if you're talking about waking up yourself, just your body is going through that process of coming back into awareness after being asleep. Now it's reflexive. Entonces, por ejemplo, me despierto generalmente a las 6 de la mañana. ¿Vale? Sí. This is something, it's a process your body goes through itself. Okay.
I think mostly I'm sorry.
No,
I think mostly I got the idea, but the thing like when I do the exercise, like I'm trying to do the exercise at the page 201, and like I don't know if you have the book ready to see it. So it's number 12 is no me gusta blank los problemas de otros. So I try to
this is hard, and you'll notice I didn't assign these as like, oh, you must do them. These are kind of hard. Here's why these are hard. You're deciding which verb makes sense, conjugate it. No me gusta means I don't even conjugate it. Maybe I don't conjugate it because it's the second verb out of a two-verb phrase. You're making this many decisions. That is hard. So the first decision you're making is which one makes sense. And look at all these examples you've got to pick from. So this is hard.
Oh, got it.
Okay. No me gusta, the problems of other people. And now I'm looking through all this and lots of vocabulary. Okay, so let's take a look here. You've got to choose from acordarse, to remember. It's like recordar, but it's reflexive. That's pretty useful. Aprovecharse. I'm going to tell you, you're unlikely to use that in conversation. It means to take advantage of. How many times does that come up? And I'm not saying it's not a useful verb. I use it, but you know, as somebody at your level of beginner, how much do you need that verb? So, in this list, there are going to be some verbs that might not be as useful to you at the level you're at right now, you know, but they're using it because they have now been teaching a whole range of many different kinds of verbs that happen to be reflexive. Some are going to be very obvious, like despertarse or levantarse. Some are going to be not super obvious, like aprovecharse, to take advantage of. So we need to pick out which verbs are going to be the most useful to a beginner.
Okay.
In beginning conversation. You know, atreverse, to dare. You're walking down the street to go grocery shopping. Do you even need this verb? Maybe, maybe not, right? Burlarse, to make fun of. Maybe useful. Callarse, definitely useful. Callarse means to be quiet. Someone may ask you to be quiet. You may ask your kids to be quiet. You may be standing in the grocery store and you hear a mom saying to her kids, shut up. Enough already, right? Callarse, super common. Demorarse, to be delayed, maybe for in the airport, maybe. Desayunarse, some people don't eat, to eat breakfast yourself. Some people use only desayunar. Some people make it reflexive. Some people think it's weird to make that reflexive. I don't use that reflexively ever, desayunarse. Enamorarse, to fall in love. Might read it. Might read it. Well, probably, you know, actually kind of common. Yeah. Encontrarse, to meet up with somebody, not meet them first time, but meet up. Yeah. Equivocarse, to be wrong. This is super common. This is super common. How many times you say, oh, lo siento, I'm so sorry. I'm wrong about that. Me equivoco. Me equivoco. Me equivoco. I'm wrong about that. You know what? That's a good verb to know. Fiarse, to trust. Yeah, it might work. Fijarse. Ooh, great big super 3-star verb. Fijarse means to notice something. Fijarse is used all the time. You go on a tour. You go on a tour of a town. You got a little tour guide and you go, ah. And the guy's looking at the whole group. Oh, fíjense, fíjense, fíjense. Hey, notice this. Look at this. Fijarse. Fijar means to fix something. It would be like if I took a pin and I attached it and I stuck the needle through the fabric. That's fijar. I'm fixing it to something. I'm literally attaching it. And fijarse means to take your eyeballs and and take your eyeballs, boom. I'm looking, I'm really paying close attention. Fijarse means to pay attention. You are literally fixing your eyes on something and focusing your attention. Fijarse is used all the time to say, to take special notice of something. You don't know what the price is. You ask somebody a price for something in the grocery store. And let's say they've got like a big billboard thing, right? With all the prices of all the different drinks. You know, you want to know a certain kind of drink and he'll say, fíjese aquí, look at this. Take a look at this, notice this. So fijarse es súper importante. Meterse might or might not be important. Meter is kind of like poner. Meter means to put something
form.
inside of something else. Not just to take your cup and put it here, but meto azúcar, meto crema. I put cream inside of this, not just putting the cream on the table, but I'm putting something inside of. But well, then what does meterse mean if it's reflexive? What the heck do I? Meterse is often used for sticking your nose in somebody else's business. Oh, let me show you why this verb is very, very commonly used. Vamos a ver, let's take a look. So the reason you're getting all kind of turned around, Joanita, is because this is using a lot of very advanced verbs. Okay, meter means to put something, and usually it's inside of something else. Put it in your pocket, put it in a box, right? Put something in a drawer, okay? So not just putting something somewhere, but putting something, it fits inside of something, okay? Meterse, or I'm sorry, meter. And meterse is to put yourself in a situation, in someone else's business where it doesn't belong. Okay. So, for example, you want to tell somebody, I don't get involved with that. I don't mess with that, right? I don't concern myself with that. No me meto. No me meto. I'm not getting into that. People say, butt out. Butt out. Wow, what a weird word in English. Butt out. That means get your nose out of my business, right? No te metas. Don't, literally, don't get yourself involved in my business. Butt out. Okay, don't stick your nose where it doesn't belong. Wow, that is a really kind of like almost insulting sounding thing in English, isn't it? Yeah. No te metas. No te metas en mis asuntos. No te metas en mis asuntos. En mis asuntos is in my business, in my affairs, in stuff that concerns me. So meterse is to inject yourself into a situation that is, yeah, doesn't belong to you. The next verb that you see on that page on 201, 201, is parecerse. And we're going to take a look at parecerse in a minute. Parecerse means to look
alike.
Like someone else. To look alike. To look like each other. Okay. I could very well say mi hija se parece a mí. My daughter looks like me, except younger and cuter and blonde. Mi hija se parece a mí. Okay. A lot of people say things like me parezco. Me parezco a mi papá. I look like my dad. Me parezco a mi mamá. I look like my mom. Okay. You're talking about their siblings, like they've got a group of sisters or brothers and sisters, and nos parecemos. We look like each other. We resemble each other. Okay. And we're going to take a look at this verb. I've got a whole special thing I'm going to send out an email to you about it, but we'll take a look at it during class. So parecerse is kind of an important verb. Ponerse means to put something on yourself, right? Portarse, ponerse is important. I'm going to show you one other thing with ponerse at the risk of confusing you. And I don't mean to confuse you, but poner is just to put something right in a place, you know, to set it on top of something, just poner. But ponerse is to put something on yourself, right? Glasses, could even go as far as to be makeup, jewelry, clothing, ponerse, you're putting something on yourself. There is one other very, very common use for ponerse, and I want to kind of throw this out so that, because it really is common. What if I'm using ponerse, but not with things, not with camiseta, not with audífonos? I'm not using it with a thing, but I use it with an adjective. Then it means to get in a state, let's say. I'm going to show you an example because it'll make more sense. Me pongo. I could say me pongo la camiseta, me pongo los pantalones, me pongo el reloj. I put on my watch, right? Those are all things. But what if somebody says, let's see if you can guess this. Let's make it an easy one. Me pongo contenta. Me pongo muy contenta. What do you think that's going to mean?
Feels.
Yeah, feels, but a little bit. Wow, that makes me happy. I get really happy.
It makes me
Por
content.
ejemplo, yeah, something. You're right. You're right. Me pongo contenta cuando llueve. I get happy. I
When I-
become happy when it rains. Bien? Let's look at another example. Somebody says to you, and they say this as a command. They say this because they see you're all worked up. Somebody sees that you're all worked up, and they don't want you to be worked up. So they say, no te pongas enojado.
Don't get angry.
Don't get angry. So we say, I get happy when something, or I get mad. Even this. Me pongo rojo, or if you're a lady, me pongo roja. I get red. What do we do when we
I
get
get
red? We
embarrassed. I get embarrassed.
blush. So if you hear ponerse with not a thing, but a description, well, it's a color, so it's a description. It's some kind of a physical or an emotional reaction. And in all likelihood, it's going to take on the meaning of get or become.
Mhm.
So ponerse, super importante, really important verb. Really important verb. With a description, it means get or become. With things, it means you're putting something on your body. So ponerse, really important to know. The next verb they have on that list from 201 is portarse, and it means to behave, to act in a certain way that it affects yourself, how you present yourself to the world, right? Portarse means to behave. Mis hijos se portan bien. My kids behave well. Mis hijos se portan bien. Mis hijos no se portan bien. My kids don't behave well. Portarse means to behave in a certain way, right? Quejarse, after that, is to complain. Reírse is to laugh at somebody. But all of these kind of things, like los mexicanos, like the Mexicans had said in the reflexive video, I'm going to just go back and see if I can find that for you guys. It's an action that you're doing and it comes out of you. It originates in your brain or your gut reaction, and it affects you. It affects how you look to the world. It affects how you're treating other people. So sometimes reflexive verbs kind of go to that big picture thing, not the just stand up, sit down, wake up, wash your hands kind of thing. Reflexive goes into a big, vast category. Yeah. Some verbs just are reflexive, and you will, like ducharse, you just always see that reflexive. You never see that used by itself. I don't know if that helps you, but it shows you really reflexives are a very big category. So we can say, well, it's this one thing, but it's more than this one thing of an action that you do. You do the action yourself, but the reaction, the effect of the activity comes back on you. Kind of hard for us to see in English. You just have to get used to, these are reflexive verbs, those verbs like portarse and yeah, quejarse, complain. You know, we see complain as I complain and you complain to somebody else. We don't really see that as something that comes back on ourselves. I mean, I don't see it that way in English, but that is kind of the way culturally it is developed in Spanish. I don't know how much that helps or hurts. But you kind of have to get used to the fact that some things are just reflexive. Just are. I want to send you out to do some practice with reflexives. So we're going to share this. So time to pull this out. And we won't leave this category of reflexives. You'll see them over and over and over again. Okay, because we can't avoid them. They're everywhere. They'll just keep coming back. They're coming back. The more you see it, the more you see it, the more you see it, you'll get comfortable with the meanings. So I'm going to send you off very soon to practice with these. We're going to take a look at what these questions mean before you go out and practice them in a smaller group. Okay, so these were under that category that said new prompts. Okay. The question might be asking you about yourself. It might be asking about somebody else, right? If it's asking you about you, it's a te with a tu verb. If it's asking about somebody else, it'll be a se with a third person verb. So the first question uses divertirse. It's got an IE stem change. Cuando te diviertes? When do you have a good time? When do you enjoy yourself? Divertirse means to enjoy yourself, to have a good time. No one in Spanish, no one, exactly zero, no one ever says tener buen tiempo. That is one of the big no-nos, along with the embarazada, pregnant word. Don't ever say tengo buen tiempo. Nobody knows what the heck you mean by that. Tengo buen tiempo. And you want to do that because your English brain wants to say, have good time. Tener buen tiempo. No one understands that in Spanish, right?
Oh.
They have no, what the heck is that? Tener buen tiempo. No, there are two ways to say have a good time. This is one of them. Okay. We'll look at the other one next week. So divertirse means to have a good time, to enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself means have a good time. They're just two different word phrases we use in English, right? Cuando te diviertes, when do you have a good time? Cuando se divierte tu esposo, tu esposa, right? So what they do. Quejarse.
So when you just say to somebody, okay, have a good time, so you just say te diviertes?
Well, you could, if you're saying have a good time, that's actually a command. So I'm gonna write down what actually that's gonna change, because it won't be a plain old verb. It'll be what they call a command verb. So have a good time is diviértete. We take the te and tag it onto the end of divierte. Diviértete. Have a good time. Enjoy yourself. Diviértete. Okay?
Okay, gracias.
Diviértete. No, está bien. Está bien. That's okay. That is a command. It's saying, have a good time. Enjoy yourself. So that makes it into a command, right? Quejarse de, to complain about, and they don't use the word about, they use the word de. Quien se queja mucho, I mean, if you complain about a thing, if you name the thing. And the first question, we don't name the thing. Quien se queja mucho en tu familia? Everybody's got a complainer in their family, right? There's always that one person who's a complainer. Quien se queja mucho? Who complains a lot? ¿De qué te quejas? What do you complain about? Me quejo del clima. I complain about the weather. Me quejo del tiempo. I complain about the weather. There are two ways to say weather, right? Me quejo del calor. I complain about the heat. Bien? When you name the thing you complain about, we add that little word de and then the thing, okay? Callarse, to be quiet, to shut up, if you would. Quien no, I'm sorry, that should be a se calla, perdón. Quien no se calla nunca, who is never quiet? Quien no se calla nunca, who is never quiet? Cuando nos callamos, por lo general, when are we quiet, generally? Jubilarse, to be retired from a job, to retire. ¿Quién se jubila en tu familia? Who's retiring in your family? ¿Cuándo quieres jubilarte? When do you want to retire? What age, maybe? Olvidarse, to forget about something. Te olvidas de muchas cosas. ¿De qué te olvidas? What do you complain about, right? Te olvidas de muchas cosas. Do you complain about a lot, or I'm sorry, do you complain? Do you forget about a lot of things? ¿De qué te olvidas? What do you forget? And this is a really, really golden verb. Irse, not just go, but go away, as in take off. I'm out of here. Irse is the I'm out of here verb, okay? Cuando te vas? When do you take off? When are you going away? When are you going away for a vacation? When are you going away to, I don't know, doing some shopping? When are you taking off? When are you getting out of here? Cuando te vas? Bien? Okay, does that make sense for what the questions are about?
Yeah.
See? Okay, vale. We're gonna let you go into some smaller groups. Uy, a ver. Breakout rooms. Let's do some breakout rooms. I'm gonna make sure you're not just one-on-one, that you've got at least 3 people to talk with here. A ver. Okay, I'm gonna give you, ¿qué les parece? What do you think, guys? About 7 minutes, 7 minutos, 7 minutes to share
For
ideas
all-
with people?
For all of this? For all of this
For
questions?
these, is 7, do 7 minutes work about, or do you need more? Un poquito más. 10? 7 or 10? What do you
Yeah,
guys say?
Sure.
7? Siete? Okay. A ver, I'm going to give you 7 minutes. When you come back, anything that gave you troubles or that you thought was interesting or fun or funny, come on back and share that with the group. Studying?
Está bien.
Okay, bueno, hit your join button. I've got to hit my timer button. Muy bien, aquí estamos. Here we are. We got everybody coming on back. Vale, magnifico. You will need to take yourselves off of mute to let me know what kind of questions you have. Hay preguntas. Are there any questions about using these or things that were harder to do than other sentences? Or
I don't think we finished the whole thing together. I don't think we have enough time.
oh
to do it.
dear, perdón. Okay. Did you get at least half of them done?
Yeah, I think so.
At least half. Okay. What kind of questions might you have about these?
We did okay.
Nada? Pretty good?
We did okay.
Wow. Okay. What I want to do is every week I want to take, for moving forward, every week I want to take one reflexive verb that I think is useful for you. Okay. So like every week we will focus on one. We're going to have our little focus verb next after this. And then I'll tell you what is going to be the verb for next week. See?
Okay.
Okay, magnifico. And these are going to be things that in my own egocentric way, I feel like you'll hear people using this. Okay, I'm not going to take here's the big hint: atreverse, to dare. I'm not taking that one because I don't think going to the grocery store that's really useful for you.
No.
But I'm going to take stuff that you are going to use and you are going to hear people using a lot. Okay. Bien. A ver. Okay. The verb we're going to take today, el verbo que vamos a examinar. Vamos a pensar en este verbo. We're going to think on this verb. And I'm going to send you the notes for this. So don't furiously scribble notes. You know, print it out and scribble notes after the fact. But just kind of watch and be a sponge right now. Bien. Is this verb here, because this is a verb you actually hear people use a lot. We got parecer, to seem a certain way, and parecerse, to look like somebody. Or I guess you could look like something. Like you could look like a clown, which wouldn't be a good thing. Okay. Bien. But we're going to take a look at this. And this is odd because in the first place, parecer is one of those verbs that, I'm going to try to make this a little bit bigger. Yeah. Parecer in the first place is very, very regular, except not for yo. Why? Well, it's a phonetic thing. Okay. So las formas, and I show you what they look like as reflexive and what they look at like not reflexive. So, you know, just look at it without the parentheses for the non-reflexive thing. Parezco, pareces, parece, parecemos, pareceis. You don't need that unless you're in Spain. Parecen, okay? From parecer, parecer, and we're looking only, of course, at present tense forms. Parecer, and you see that if you take off the ER from parecer, those look pretty good, except for yo. Why does that yo do that oddball thing? Why does it do that? Why is it Z? Where does it? There's no Z in parecer. Why does it do that? Oh, because let's see what happens phonetically. The original verb is parecer. It's got a S sound in it, right? Parecer. Okay. And if I were to take off the ER, parecer, and just add the O, why can't I do that? Because then that sounds like pareco. Uh-oh. If I take off the ER from parecer, pares, and I add an O, it's pareco, because CO sounds like pareco. Co. I can't do that. I got to have the sound come back. So the way I get the sound to come back is to do that. It's a phonetic thing. That's all it is. That's all it is. Parezco. Okay, so it's a phonetic thing. Just know that Z is there because it's a phonetic thing. It is the same kind of thing that happens when we go from conocer to conozco. I know. Conozco. A tus vecinos. Oh, I know your neighbors. Conozco a tus vecinos. That same ZCO is the ZCO that happens with parecer. So we have conocer, we have parecer. So this tells you that verbs that have a CER do a phonetic thing just for yo, not anywhere else. I don't need it anywhere else, okay? Only for the yo form. So just know that that is there. It is there because of the CER thing, right?
Yeah.
And that is why that happens. But that Z thing doesn't come into the mix, only for yo. Okay, so parezco, oddball, but pareces, parece, parecemos, pareces, parecen. Okay.
Yes.
If I use parecer by itself, you, yeah, we. By the way, this we thing is we. We, yeah, yuck, ich. In Spanish, that's we. We is an expression, we is an interjection. We is what you say when you don't like something. We. Yeah. This emotion, we. That's what people say. We. You hear people say we, they didn't like something. Okay, they find it gross, bad taste, whatever. We. Okay. We. See.
Are we saying we or ooh, ooey?
We.
Ooey.
We.
Really
Uy.
fast. So ooh and then
We. We. We.
ooh.
Too
Uy.
short.
Uy.
It's very short. We.
Mhm.
We. We. We.
Gracias.
And then, okay. Okay. So if something seems a certain way to you, this sandwich seems disgusting to me.
It's full of blue cheese.
Ay. Uy, esta comida me parece podrida. Wow, this food looks rotten to me.
A mí también.
Perfecto, Danita, perfecto. A mí también. Esta comida me parece podrida. Oh, it seems rotten to me. Podrida. Esta comida me parece podrida. Yeah, okay. So sometimes we want to use parecer to say something seems a certain way. Me parece, seems to me. It looks that way to me. Bien. People might also use parecer very commonly to say, how does it seem to you? And what they really mean is, what do you think about that? It does literally mean, how does it seem to you? But what they're literally saying is, I want to know what you think about that. ¿Qué te parece ir al cine? What do you think? How does it seem to you to go to the movies? What they're really saying is, you want to do that? They want a reaction from you. Somebody asks you, ¿qué te parece? ¿Qué te parece? And an action, they're saying, hey, what do you think about it? Me parece buena idea. It seems like a good idea to me. Hay una película nueva que quiero ver. There's a new movie that I want to see. Or they might just say, as a response, they might just say instead of that, got my fingers on the wrong keys. Sí, vamos. Yeah, let's go. ¿Qué te parece is asking you for a reaction. Gonna do it? Not gonna do it. What do you think? Sí, vamos. So, parece means something looks a certain way, or they're asking you, hey, what do you think about that? ¿Qué te parece? And I'm even going to take this, yeah, let's go thing, and I'm going to stick it in front of this because, you know, sometimes that's really the first reaction, right? What do you think about this? Oh, yeah, let's go. They might not use you might not need to use parece in the answer. Hey, what do you think about going to the movies? ¿Qué te parece ir al cine? Ah, sí, vamos. Yeah, let's go. Okay. But if I make parecerse reflexive, it means you look like somebody else. Las gemelas, that means twins. Las gemelas se parecen. I might, if let's say you don't know the word twins, las chicas se parecen. These girls look like each other. Oh, or Camela se parece a su hermana. Or Carmen. Carmen se parece a su hermana. Carmen looks like her
Sister.
sister. So, parecerse means to look like somebody else. In other words, you seem like somebody else. Parecerse. Muy común, a common thing. Okay, bien?
Pregunta.
Sí, dime.
So in the beginning, the parecer, the first one is to seem. That's not reflexive.
Not reflexive.
Not
Oh,
reflexive.
and notice something here.
You got the may.
I've got a me, but do I have a yo verb?
Okay.
For a verb to be reflexive,
Has to go
me
back.
has to be with a yo verb. This is not reflexive. It seems to me parece.
Okay. Okay. So it's not reflexive.
It's not reflexive.
Okay.
I don't look like this moldy piece of sandwich.
Okay.
You will often see me in front of a verb. It is only reflexive if it is in front of a yo verb.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
the nasty truth is that a lot of times me is in front of a verb. It is only reflexive if me is in front of a yo verb. Me llamo, me lavo, me levanto, me siento, but me parece, it seems to me.
Okay.
So the sentence would still be correct without the may. This
Yes.
seems rotten.
Yes, I could take that out.
Yeah. Okay.
And now I'm just not saying who it seems that way to everybody, right? But esta comida parece podrida is perfectly good. But I put in the me, and why did I do that? Because reaction wise,
To me.
I'm telling how I feel about it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How it looks to me. But I could take that me out. We just got a big light bulb turn on with that one. No?
Mhm.
We did. Yeah. You're starting to see some things. Okay. Bien. Qué buena pregunta. Gracias, Mariana. Thank you so much. So, parecer and parecerse. In your for homework, for little conversation, and it's going to be brief conversation. When you come back in next week, I want you to talk about who in your family looks like each other using parecerse. So that's going to be your one little thing to come in and work, and it'll be a short breakout room. I want you to talk about with your siblings, with your grandparents, with your kids, with your cousins, whoever it may be, who looks like each other. Or maybe who doesn't look anything like, oh, isn't there always that one family member who doesn't look like anybody in your family? And you know, they just got that errant gene. I got a tall, red-headed brother-in-law. He is the only person in his family who is tall with red hair, except for a great grandfather who was way in the family. And that little errant gene came through. I'm just saying, everybody's got one of those in their family, right? Okay, so I want you to come back and talk about that, and I'll print out the question so that it makes sense with your email, so you'll know what to talk about. Okay, ¿está bien? That is our
Wait, can I ask
question.
another question
Sí, sí, dime.
before we move on?
Ajá.
Pears, I can't say it. Pears, the reflexive one.
Parecerse?
See.
Okay.
You said you look like, but you could look like things. So if I wanted to say you look like crap, or you look like you haven't slept,
You
or something.
you won't use that verb at all.
Okay.
You won't use that verb at all. You would use a different expression. Okay. So here's where I could use it for things. Se dice que, they say that. You know, I want to talk about like general knowledge out there in the population. Se dice que, and I'm going to put it in the chat box. Se dice que. If people want to say like everybody says that in general, se dice que, it is said that. Se dice que, se dice que las personas se parecen a sus mascotas. They say that people look like their pets after a while. No, that old saying that the guy who's got the beagle has that kind of happy look, right? Or the person who's got the Labrador. Yeah, okay, you could say it like that. Or se parece a un payaso. He looks like a clown, because it's an actual physical thing. But looks like crap or looks crummy is going to be a totally different verb.
Tired.
We're going to take that, or tired, we're going to take that verb not for next week, but the week after.
Okay.
Bien?
Those alerts.
Okay, we're going to take that because that is a super useful verb that you hear all the time.
Okay.
So that's not what we're going to take next week, but we will take it the week after. Okay, here is your other new verb, and this will all come into on the email. The verb you're going to use next week. Ooh, I'm trying to find my button, mi botón. The next reflexive verb that we're going to take as our theme next week, besides parecerse, in addition to parecerse, is going to be this verb, because you hear it all the time. Ir versus irse. Ooh, all the time, all the time, all the time. To go, and it's as simple as to go versus to go away, to take off, I'm out of here. Okay, that's as simple as the difference is. There are about, I think, 2 or 3 videos. I'm going to decide yet which one is the best one for you to watch. I haven't decided that yet, but I am going to send that out as part of your homework to take a look at a video. Yeah, I think I know which one it is. Okay, so you're going to have a video to watch about ir and irse, and then we are going to practice ir and irse in conversation next week. Okay, so we're going to take a look at ir and irse, and also we're going to practice parecerse. We're going to practice that. We're going to have some specific questions. Okay, bien. I'll probably have some illustrations of irse before you go off into your practice, but you will get a little video on that. That makes sense? See? Bien? Okay. Vale la pena. It is worth it, because some of these are verbs that are super, super common. Okay. A ver. I want to, however, start to take a look at this thing of past tense. And we had some questions, so I'm a little bit behind, but that's okay. A ver, bien. We're going to take a look at this great big, kind of scary thing that is the past tense. I don't want you to try to memorize yet exactly all these endings, but do know, because as you've done your reading, you've undoubtedly seen some of these here and there. In Spanish, there are two past tenses, but they serve different purposes. So as you do the little novelitas, or even as in a newspaper article, you will see both past tenses, and they indicate different things. Okay? I'm going to tell you right now up front, preterito, preterite, is the more problematic information in conjugation. It is more problematic because it has regular preterite and it has a lot of irregular. And they're irregular in different ways. And it's 16-year-olds don't like this tense. Because it's hard, because it has lots of exceptions to the rules. And oh my gosh, I've got to memorize more of these. Oh my God. So what we're going to do today is we're going to just take a look at what things, when you see them, they mean did it, did it, did it. Okay. All these endings are did it, preterite endings. They're events. They're did it. AR verbs, if they're regular, are going to look like this. And I'm going to take like an example. I'm going to take the ever-friendly regular verb hablar, to speak. Hablar becomes hablé, I spoke or I talked. Hablaste, you spoke or you talked. Habló, not hablo, habló. Habló, he spoke or he talked. Hablamos, yay, it looks just like present. It also means past. And hablaron. Hablaron, they talked or they spoke. When you see these endings, they are AR verb preterite. It's a regular verb ending. Yay. But they mean not right now, but
In the past.
in the past. Okay. In English, we convey this idea, oops, by saying, I talked. Oh, but I don't say I speaked. Spoke, very irregular. English has lots of it. Okay, what if you got an ER and IR verb? ER and IR verbs are going to share. They are wonderful. They share all the time. All the time. ER and IR verbs share all the time these endings. Instead of aste, o, amos, aron, it's I with a punch. I, iste, yo, imos, and ieron. So let's take comer. Comí, I ate. Comiste,
Comiste.
you ate. Yeah, comiste, did you eat? Comiste, that one word means did you eat? Comiste, did you eat? Comiste. Comió, comió, he ate or she ate, or the usted form, comió, right? Comimos, we ate. Ah, ya comimos, we already ate. Ya comimos, we already ate. Comieron for the day. And I notice we're skipping over the iste, the vosotros. And vosotros, by the way, just takes the tu form and puts an is on the end of it, and is on the end of it. That's all it is. It really isn't that hard, but for some reason, people struggle with it. All of these preterite forms, when you read or hear verbs that have these endings, they mean did it. In English, ed, talked, walked. I can't say bide, bought. Look at how many oddball things we get in English, but you get the idea. Means it happened in the past. It's over with. It's done. It's an event. It's an event. When you're telling what happened in your day, they are the little events that move the this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. That's all preterito. It's all preterito. But if you hear or read or see these endings, they are what is called imperfecto. And that means something was going on in the background. It's describing in the past. Imperfect people love because it's a very regular tense. There are very, very few irregulars in the whole language. We'll talk about them next week, but not right now. This many verbs are irregular in the imperfect tense in the whole language. Yay! So they'll always tag on these endings. Aber type endings for AR verbs, or ia type endings for ER and IR verbs, okay? So what I want to do with you today is just to show you, and I'll send you this chart. I'll send you this chart. We want to look at some verbs that you use a lot in the past. And again, don't write these down. I'm going to send them to you. We're going to take a look at, you looked at these verbs the very first, like 3-4 weeks of Spanish class. Haber, to say something exists. Ser, estar, tener, and ir. To be, to have, to go. Really, really common. We're going to take a look at what they look like. We're going to look at haber first. Haber, we use this verb to say there is, there are, and we only have one conjugation. All you ever use is I, right? Right? Hay dos libros, there are 2 books. Hay un libro, there is 1 book. That's all you use is I, right? I, we don't conjugate it for yo, we don't conjugate it for we, nosotros, we don't conjugate it for ellos, we conjugate it as I, that's it. So I, there is, there are, has a past. There is, there are, there was, there were. Here it is, había. It has to be in the imperfect. It has to be in the imperfect 80% of the time. Why is that? Because imperfecto is used to describe how things were, how things looked, where stuff was. It's going to be usually 80% of the time imperfect. So the only verb you need to say there was or there were is había. There is a preterite form. It is called hubo, but you hardly ever use it.
They use that a lot in the book.
Bring those up
Right.
for me next. You use it for
Hubo.
events. Hubo is used to talk about events, like hubo un accidente, there was an accident. Or there was a party because a party was an event. Or hubo un incendio, there was a fire.
Mhm.
Okay, but most of the time when people are describing, like they want to say there were a lot of cars in the parking lot. They just existed out there. Cars are not an event. They don't happen. Había. There were a lot of people at the park. People weren't an event. They didn't happen. They were just there. It's a description of what was around you, of your environment. Había. Hay, there is, there are. Había, there were, there was. Boom, that's it. Qué fácil. How easy, okay?
But so I'm sorry,
Easy.
I wanted to make sure about this. So when you use hubo, it's only for the like a tragic moment or something like that. That
Doesn't have
things
to be
happen that is
tragic.
bad.
Doesn't have to be
But-
tragic, but it's an event.
Huh. Okay.
It's something that happened and over, done.
So you could say, hubo una fiesta.
You could say hubo una fiesta. A party took place. Yes, you could. Sí. Doesn't have to be tragic.
Okay.
Okay. Ayer hubo una reunión. Yesterday there was a meeting,
Okay.
but it was an event. A meeting was an event, right? See? Bien?
Sí.
But really, most of the time, you're not going to hear hubo a lot. You're going to hear había a lot.
Mm.
Okay. Bien. Let's take a look at one other verb because it's the only one we'll have time for. I'll send you the whole file, but we'll talk about more of this file next week. Ser, to be. You know, soy, eres, es, somos, soy, son. Those are present. But if we're just describing what people were like, it's a very irregular verb. Era, eras, era, éramos, erais, eran. I want you to notice something. In imperfecto, the yo form is the same exact form always as the él, ella, usted form. That's just the way it is. The yo conjugation is the same as the él, ella, usted conjugation. And notice the tú form gets an S. The nosotros form gets a mos. The they form gets an N. It's nice and consistent, okay? So most of the time, for ser, if you're just describing what somebody used to be like, what something was like, what the sky was like, what the forest was like, it's going to be era, eras, era, éramos, erais, eran. Boom. There are the what we call imperfect forms. There is a preterite form. This is generally used only when you've got a real time limit. I'll give you a quick example. Lincoln was president from 1860 to 1865. That's a time limit. Lincoln fue presidente desde 1860 hasta 1865. I'm talking about a limited time. I want to say my grandpa was a carpenter for 20 years. Mi abuelo fue carpintero durante 20 años. I'm giving a time limit. Okay. So when you see a star, that means I think you're going to need those verbs more than this verb that doesn't have a star. I want you to notice ser in every tense, except for about this many. Ser often winds up being irregular. Ser is very irregular in imperfecto, and ser is very irregular in preterito. Look at these past tenses. Where the heck does an F come from? There's no F in ser. Okay, I am, I was. There's no W in to be. I was. It's irregular. So if you were to need preterito, or if you do see preterito, it will look like this. Fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, right? Fueron. These are all preterito. You do hear them. The differences between preterito and imperfecto and ser, I'm going to tell you, is probably one of the hardest things to distinguish. Go by what you hear people using. Most people, when they describe what somebody was like, they're going to use era. They're usually going to use that because imperfecto talks about descriptions in the past. And we use ser a lot for descriptions. Somebody was tall, the sky was clear, right? It was good weather, you know, they're descriptions most of the time. So that's all the time we have to do today. We are going to take a look through these. You may want to kind of just check them out. Check them out. But we're just doing we just had time for these today. We'll come back to these next week. Está bien? We want to look at like the super common verbs in conversation, present to past. Make sense? See?
We try to make sense.
I know.
See?
Try to make sense. And now, you understand, I'm also going to send you with a little video that talks about why we've got these two past tenses, and it's going to be really brief. But it's one thing to learn all the conjugations. It's yet another thing to know, why do we have these two past tenses? That is a bigger challenge. Why we have these tenses is a bigger challenge than learning here are the conjugations for the tenses. Okay?
See.
So do know it is a big topic, but you are, as you get these little novelitas or any kind of reading, you are going to see it kind of a lot. So we're going to walk you through some of the most common verbs in the next couple of weeks. Bien?
See. Yeah.
Okay. And why we use them and why they are what they are. Okay. Bien. Yeah. Deep breath. Deep breath. Okay. So next week, parecerse, irse, and we'll tackle more of these past tenses. Bien? And we'll show you examples of these past tenses. That's the way you learn it. You learn it from the examples. Bien?
See.
And I will show you the examples next week of why they are what they are. Okay?
Okay, that's good.
Bien. Vale, muy bien. Very good. Que tengan una semana fantástica. I hope you have a really great week. Do send me questions during the week. As you come up with a question, shoot me a quick email.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, gracias.
Vale. Magnífico. Nos vemos. Nos
Hasta
vemos.